for the Philadelphia Eagles.
With the 53rd pick in the 2020 NFL Draft, the Philadelphia Eagles select Jalen Hurts, quarterback, Oklahoma.
Well, it just got interesting, ladies and gentlemen, as Jalen Hurts is going to Doug Peterson and that Philadelphia offense, and there are a million ways this can go. Jalen Hurts has barely been two completely different quarterbacks. As a freshman, he was the SEC Freshman of the Year at Alabama in 2016, although they lost in that national championship game to Deshaun Watson and Clemson. 2017, he was benched at halftime of the college football national championship game, and then Tua Tagovailoa came on and led Alabama to an overtime win over Georgia, and then he backed up and led Bama to the SEC title after replacing an injured Tua Tagovailoa against Georgia in that SEC championship game. And then he transferred to Oklahoma and was a completely different quarterback, Kurt Warner. 32 passing touchdowns, only 8 interceptions. He had 20 rushing touchdowns as well. Kurt, this is such an intriguing pick.
You're exactly right, Trey. I mean, you got your $100 million man there in Carson Wentz, but when you look at this guy in Jalen Hurts, he's a winner. You talked about it. No matter where he's been, no matter what you ask him to do, he just finds ways to win. And to me, when I look at a guy in the NFL and I say, who does he remind me of? He reminds me of a guy like Russell Wilson. May not be the most polished passer right now, growing in that area, but he can make plays. He can buy time. He can do it with his legs. He can do it with his arm, making big plays as he buys time out of the pocket. I'm fascinated by this pick and how they're going to use him, DJ. Do they put in a package for him so they can get Carson Wentz off the field? Maybe a run package for him, but it's going to be fascinating to see how they use these two guys, DJ.
Yeah, you got a very creative play caller there in Doug Peterson, and you want to use that quarterback run game, but we've seen with Carson Wentz, you just don't know if he's going to be able to hold up. So now you have an opportunity to put some packages together with Jalen Hurts, particularly when you get down there in the red zone, where I think you can get him on the field early. But more than anything else, this is insurance. The Eagles have always invested heavily in the backup quarterback position. This time, Lewis, they do it with draft capital.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Look, Jalen Hurts is someone who right now should be thanking his lucky stars that he goes to get coached by a guy like Doug Peterson. I've said all along many, many times that quarterback development and quarterback success a lot of times is predicated as much on where you go and who you're surrounded with as it is on your own work ethic and your own ability and talent. Going to Philadelphia, playing behind Carson Wentz, being coached by Doug Peterson, you couldn't ask for anything better. I think this is a tremendous opportunity for both the organization and the player, Mel.
No question. I think when you look at Jalen Hurts, 43 career rushing touchdowns, those packages that Daniel talked about, Lamar Jackson, what he's been able to do. He was package quarterback for Joe Flacco when he was a rookie, so he took over late in that season. You look at a guy like Carson Wentz with the injury concerns, and Jalen Hurts is very happy being a backup. He's a great teammate. He's going to work with Wentz. He's going to be happy in that role. He did it at Alabama with Tua. So you get a guy who's a tremendous character guy, tremendous teammate for the Philadelphia Eagles, and particularly Carson Wentz, and a guy who will give you the opportunity with that athleticism. And as I say, 43 career rushing touchdowns. You can get him on the field right away as a rookie, even with Carson Wentz as your starting quarterback.
Yeah, I truly understand all the intangibles and everything that everyone is saying about Jalen Hurts, and I have the utmost respect for Howie Roseman and Doug Peterson, especially as a play caller. But this is just a weird pick for a team that's lacking offensive help at the wide receiver position. They still could use another DB or two. Just an interesting situation to draft a quarterback who at best I think is a developmental project, putting behind Carson Wentz. Interesting pick here for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Well, Boog, they did get Jalen Reagor, the wide receiver out of TCU in the first round. And it's just me. I'm looking at this, and I see some Taysom Hill-type plays for what we can do here, because he is strong. We're talking about a guy who was not only the Heisman Trophy runner-up in 2019, but he was a high school power lifter. He maxed out at Oklahoma's Power Day at 585 pounds in squats. So when you're looking, Lewis, real quickly, when you're looking at this in the ways that he can be used, I think with a creative play caller, you could find really dynamic plays out of him this season.
Yeah, you absolutely could. Just think about what New Orleans does with Taysom Hill. I mean, you could do some of the same types of things. You could bring him in and have him be a dual run pass threat and just take Carson Wentz off the field or leave Carson Wentz on the field. I'm sure Doug has thought about all of that. I'm sure this is something that's been well thought out. And again, I think this is definitely a win for the player in particular. You can argue with whether or not this is the best move for the team, but for the player, it's a slam dunk for Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, I totally agree. And we just saw that shot of Doug Peterson there. He was almost giddy. He was giggling how happy he was that Jalen Hurts